Good morning. Welcome to the midweek edition of Business Morning on Channels Television. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Let's get right into business. Oil extended losses on Wednesday as concerns over global economic headwinds deepened, erasing the price gains booked after top crude exporter Saudi Arabia's surprise weekend pledge to deepen output cuts. Brent crude futures were down 40 cents to $75.89 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures dropped 35 cents to $71.39 a barrel. Both benchmarks had jumped more than $1 on Monday, boosted by Saudi Arabia's decision over the weekend to reduce output by 1 million barrels per day to 9 million barrels per day in July. U.S. gasoline inventories rose about 2.4 million barrels, and distillate inventories were up about 4.5 million barrels in the week ended June the 2nd. And citing American Petroleum Institute figures, the unexpected buildup of stockpiles raised concerns over fuel consumption by the world's top oil consumers, especially as travel demand grew during the Memorial Day weekend. Meanwhile, the United States Energy Information Administration has said that U.S. crude oil production this year would rise faster and demand increases would cool compared to prior expectations. China's official data showed on Wednesday that its exports shrank much faster than expected in May as imports fell, albeit at a slower pace, as manufacturers struggle to find demand abroad and domestic consumption remain sluggish. We come to Nigeria now, where a new report by the World Bank has forecast economic growth in sub-Saharan African countries, including Nigeria, to slow to 3.2% this year and rise to 3.9% in 2024. At the same time, the International Finance Institution projects that global economic growth will drop to 2.1% this year from 3.1% in 2022. According to the World Bank, economic growth in advanced countries has slowed sharply, while the risk of financial stress in developing economies is intensifying amid high global interest rates. The bank adds that in low-income economies, especially the poorest, the damage is more pronounced, as more than one-third of those countries' per capita incomes for next year will still be below 2019 levels. Well, something that could help Nigeria boost that growth is trade relations. Netherlands is seeking closer and more beneficial trade ties with Nigeria, and we have the details of that captured in this report by our correspondent Simon Emperor.
Trade and investment. That's the focus of this multi-sectoral consultation meeting between Nigeria and the Kingdom of Netherlands. The two countries have enjoyed bilateral tie spanning over 3 decades, and this meeting is an avenue to renegotiate their agreements.
The present administration of His Excellency President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, has set a vision of building a thriving and sustainable economy that will generate wealth, create employment, boost foreign direct investment, and diversify the Nigerian economy further. In this regard, the government of Nigeria is open to exploring other areas of economic cooperation with the Kingdom of the Netherlands.
We recognize the importance of promoting and protecting investments in both our countries. It is important that we facilitate investment and that we provide a transparent legal framework to investors. In order to do so, it is necessary to modernize and expand provisions on investment facilitation and protection.
Representatives of 35 ministries, departments and agencies of the government, as well as private sector players, are attending the meeting, and each makes propositions to the Netherlands delegation.
We have identified a number of areas that I think we can cooperate in any area basically that can transfer technology to us to build it locally. We are open to that, but I have looked at a few companies in Netherlands that I think we can cooperate with.
I want us to have a African Culture and Study Department in one of your university in Netherlands. Number two, I want you to please let us come together and develop a training capacity for our youth.
The meeting is expected to continue on Wednesday, June the 7th, during which the investment promotion agreement between Netherlands and Nigeria will be reviewed. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
We're also looking at the Nigerian economy. The resident representative of the International Monetary Fund office in Nigeria, Mr. Ari Eisen, has said that Nigeria needs to efficiently raise revenues and manage its expenditure if it wishes to resolve its debt issues. There you go again, that issue of debt. And now the World Bank said in its June Global Economic Prospectus, as we read earlier, marked down Nigeria's output growth for this year to 2.8% on account of slower speed seen in the first quarter. The economy is expected to see faster growth of 3% and 3.1% in 2024 and 2025. Meanwhile, the President Bola Tinubu, is aiming for a 6% growth in 2023. How will he be able to juggle all of this and surpass the forecast of both the IMF and the World Bank? Well, let's discuss that with Dr. Afolabi Oluwokere, Managing Director and Chief Economist, Analyst, Data Services and Resources, and he joins us here in the studio. Dr. Oluwokere, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
So when you heard the president, in his campaign, I think even during his campaign, it was all about 10% and all of that. But his aim for 2023 is 6% GDP growth. But there's so many hurdles that's standing against that. We just saw his removal of fuel subsidy. We're still feeling the impact on all of that and wondering what that would do to inflation numbers and economic activities. And he's confident that he will make 6%, even against the expert like IMF and World Bank. What do you see?
Thank you once again. Most times when presidents speak or governments, it's always aspirational, you don't just want to say you're going to go by 1% or 2%. You just have to aim for something that is very high. So it's not a bad idea to say I'm going to do 6%. I see that more of a medium-term to a long-term goal rather than what you can initially achieve in a particular year. Especially if you look at what happened at the quarter one, and the effect of quarter one, we still feel there's always a lagging effect of whatever happens in the economy. And as you said, we have full subsidy removal. Who knows, something may be done about the exchange rates and quite a number of other things. And government may at a time bow to pressure and try to increase wage level. And when you do that, you know the implication of that on prices, that is inflation. And when you have increase in inflation, we also know the implication of that on real growth, because GDP is actually calculated real growth. So you have to debase it with inflation. So it's a very good thing to aim at 6%. If you look at what is done in National Development Plan, as well as Agenda 2050 for the country wants to go 5%, wants to go 6%, wants to even go to 7%. You can also target 10%, it's possible. But I think it's very important for you to aim high. At least if you can do 4%, that would be a very good achievement for the president.
Because we don't see any forecast placing us at 4%. Even when we hit 3%, it's not so certain. Yeah. But have we ever been here before? If we look past, you did say that past presidents and all of that. Have we been here before? Did we get out better than we aimed for?
Yes, most times when you're already low, the chance of you moving up can be very high. For instance, if you're a child, you can go faster than an adult. Firstly, we can't get taller, but children can get far taller than we do. So if you're already low, doing about 2.2%, doing about 30%, which is actually very low. Many people have said that we are growing far less than our population.
I think our average that we're supposed to grow is about 5%.
If we don't do 5%, we are not really growing, because if you are growing at 2.52% in population, and we cannot grow at 5%, that means twice that, we're actually not really growing. And we need to do something about that. So if a president is targeting 6%, that is very useful for the country. But before you can have a 6%, there are many factors that can be at play. A very good factor most times that is a quick win is if you have increase in oil prices and you can do something about production level, if you can ramp up production, and if you can also implement certain policies that can make things to be quicker for people around.
What kind of policies?
You then have to be able to solve problem about price level. Inflation is a very big issue. If you have
that is a bigger threat now, because if we have fuel subsidy removed, then we have transportation and prices going up, and we have workers asking for an increase in minimum. That's just a skyrocketing of inflation.
And I'm sure the president, whoever he is, with his advisors, will be thinking about this. If you want to do 6%, I mean, you remember President Muhammadu Buhari at the time said he wanted to take 100 million out of poverty in 10 years or something. That's a very good thing to have. But by the time you come back to the office, you then start to say, ow. So how do we grow at 6%? If you have increase in oil prices, I mean, we already have oil prices, that's not too bad. But if you can do a lot of things in that of production, if there is forex, if you can stabilize the exchange rate, if you can have certain policies, and I think one of the things they want to do is to make sure that if you can have savings in subsidy and then put such money on things that can grow the economy. But there's something very important to look at. If you are putting a lot of money in education, in health, they're also more of medium to long-term issue. So Nigeria can actually grow 6%, Nigeria can grow 7%, Nigeria can grow 10%. If you look at
in a year.
In a year, but it's not something you can achieve very quickly. So,
okay, so you mentioned former President Muhammadu Buhari,
yes,
and his aim to remove 100,000, and you also said, well, it's good for presidents or leaders to aim high. But if you continue saying it without arranging the how to get it, over time it loses its power, it loses its weight, and it just becomes something that is not taken as serious.
Yeah, you're very much right. So it's not enough for leaders to say, this is what I want to do about exchange rate, this is what I want to do about price level, this is what I want to do about growth rate. It's very important to sit down and do the work. We have removed subsidy, brilliant idea. A lot of people have supported that, but you also need to know that it has a lot of implication on prices, on exchange rates, on welfare level, on purchasing power of people, and things like that. So if you also say you want to grow by 6%, it has a lot of implication. It means that you want to work harder. But one thing you must also do as a president is to say, others have said the same thing, they couldn't achieve as much, what happened? And that's something that is very important for us as a country. We need to start looking at data. Not only data, but also the story behind the data. Why other presidents have said this, they couldn't make it. Why? Is it because of recession? In this case, we may not have recession, but there are a lot of things that are also happening globally that are still there. So there are risk factors everywhere, but it's always good to aim high.
So let's look at some of those numbers, especially from the past, and see how we're able to get through it. I know with President Muhammadu Buhari, we got through recession twice.
Twice, yes.
That's with a 9 life.
I won't say it was a very fortunate, unfortunate regime, but at least it's useful. And it's a good experience for us. Twice in the life of a particular president, you have a recession. If you look at some of the numbers, they may not be the best when you compare to many other of the presidents that we've had. But something that is very important to say, what are the experiences? He faced things that others probably didn't face. Oil price was at the time $28, $25 per barrel. And production was at the time less than 1 million barrels per day. So those are major challenges. He had recession twice, in 2016, in 2020 there was COVID-19, there was global crisis. So there are quite a number of things that he had. But if you look at the growth rate under him on the average, we were able to see a growth rate of 1.46%. And that is relatively low when you compare to other administration. Exchange rates under him on the average now, because sometimes people talk about the end value, but you need to look at the average because people don't feel the end, they feel the average throughout the period. He had an official exchange rate about 347 naira to $1, which was relatively higher than other. Public debts actually was about 20% of GDP on the average, and quite a number of things. But some of them are a bit lower. But when you compare to what he actually faced in terms of recession, I mean, COVID-19 wasn't the president's main, but the lesson for me is that we need to learn, and as a president or as a government now, we need to know what are the issues then time, and what are the implications of those issues, and how do we ensure that we learn from the past and do what is right for our people.
So what would you say President Bola Tinubu can learn from the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari?
You remember when the administration came in 2016, there was the issue of exchange rate, almost the same idea that we have now. And I think the president then was advised about do something about the exchange rate. And I think it took him a very long time. And a lot of investors...
I don't think anything was done about it. I mean, when President Muhammadu Buhari was leaving office, we have like how many windows active, even as we speak?
So one thing that the current president can learn is to do something about our markets. I don't want to say devaluation. They know the right thing to do. The central bank knows its job very well, more than many people that speak everywhere. But they should do something about it so that we don't have.
And the president, the current president, has already said he wants unification. But obviously, that's beyond just giving the statement.
Yes.
There's so many things to do if you really want to implement unification of the rates.
Yes, and many things to do and many lessons to learn. Maybe you don't just come and say, now get unified, or subsidy now removed. Maybe there should be some more background work to be done. We need to learn from experiences, our own experiences of other countries that have done similar things. You can just say exchange rate is now 500 naira to $1 or something, which is fine. But what will be the implication of that? So we need to also learn. We don't just do policies, we must learn. We must always have a feedback effect. And I think that's very important for us as a country. Otherwise, we are not really learning.
Okay, so during the, we're talking about subsidy removal now, and I think one of the presidents that received the hardest knock when he attempted to remove subsidy was President Jonathan. We're having a conversation yesterday of how a lot of the people who were against it, who organized rallies and talks against the removal of subsidy, are the same proponents of the removal of subsidy now. And I saw something, somebody said the God of Jonathan, subsidy are the God of Jonathan, because he is one of those presidents that receive a whole lot of, knocks and criticism from very high-powered individuals because he attempted to remove subsidy.
I think one thing we also learn as a country is also information management. In this particular case, I don't know how the government has been able to do is like, this thing is bad for you, let's remove it, It's like cancer. Maybe during Jonathan, it wasn't seen that way. But I think this time around, people see it as if, okay, if it's a problem, why don't you just take it away, cut it away?
So you think there's a better communication now than then? Because some people still say that President Tinubu shouldn't have just announced it like that. There's also that argument.
Yeah, sometimes you can shock people, provided you have done your background work. I want to believe he has done it. If he has not done it, he did that, then that's a problem. But I believe he must have done his background work. So you can shock people, but you must have done your background. Otherwise, it can backfire. So let's assume, let's give him the benefit of that he has done his background work. In the case of Jonathan, I think it was a major issue. Then people didn't allow. Then they bought the show P. Remember the show P and the Christopher Collide and the rest. And I think now that the government is also talking about palliatives, spending the $800 million of the World Bank, they need to go and learn what happened that time. I think there were a lot of issues around Shopee. So it's not just for us to say we are moving forward. We must also think backward and say, why did it fail? Now that the people are not raising placard, now that NLC has said, oh, I'm suspending my strike, unlike before, maybe there are other factors, you still must sit down and say, what can we learn from the past? How best can we do this so that our people, because one thing is important, most people that say remove it now, they will still come back in the next 2 months and 3 months and tell the president, you made a mistake. The same person, the same advisor. So the president has to be very careful around that.
So when we look at late President Yar'Adua, what lesson can President Tinubu learn from that?
I think a major lesson, we privatized our refineries before Yar'Adua came, and he came and said, oh, those things were reversed. We have a similar case now. I don't know whether we want to spend a lot of money in revamping those refineries, but we have a Dangote refinery.
The rehabilitation of the Port Harcourt refinery has been on since, I think, last year. The NNPCL GMD has promised that I think there's work that's going to already started in Warri. Yeah. So we still have government actively spending on refineries.
So he has to look at that. I remember when Buhari also came, he said refineries, they are going to be revamped. Initially, we thought they would be privatized. They were never privatized. For 8 years, we were trying to see what could be done about them, and they were not actually producing much. So he has to learn lessons from that. Why did he reverse it? Was it a good policy to have said, don't privatize them? Or do we need to have private people manage those refineries? Or do we need to even scrap them? Are we losing money in those refineries? We reverse it in Jonathan, in Yar'Adua era. Maybe we should do something about it and look at that all over again. But it doesn't mean that every time we just have to privatize them. Sometimes we may have to look at whether it's government management or operation of those refineries that is more efficient, or are there corruption issue, inefficient issue, and how can we address some of these issues? Those are lessons that he has to learn from that.
Then for former President Obasanjo, I know we cleared our debt. We are back to the issue of debt. And at this time, it's like we're going to have to look, really, how can we clear the debt? How did President Obasanjo do it then?
I mean,
are we going to go back begging?
No, I'm just looking at the numbers. Obasanjo started with a 24.85% public debt as a percent of GDP, and he ended with 7.26%. That was a major one, and he got the $18 billion forgiveness from the Paris Club. That was about 60% of our public debt, of our external debt that time. That was a major one. But now we are back. At that time, we were about $31 billion in external public debt. But now we are back to about 41 to 42 billion dollars. That is a major one. Maybe we are going to look for debt forgiveness. If we are not going to look at, look at what is also happening.
Aren't we the giants of Africa? Can't we solve our problems?
Sometimes you are a giant, but you need walking sticks,
You're too old to walk on your own.
But by the time you bounce back, you can then be a giant, true giant that you are supposed to be. That's what we should be as a country. So
are you saying that President Tinubu should now look more to what former President Obasanjo did?
That is very important. But to even get a debt forgiveness, you also have to do some restructuring within your economy. And you then have to agree whether those things are in the benefits of your country people or it's also in the benefits of the creditors. Yeah, because I know Ghanaians now, they are paying more taxes for them to have qualified for the IMF bailout. Yeah. And it's not easy on individuals. It's not easy. But nothing says we can't still manage a debt of 7 trillion even when you had the ways and means. So we are going to be about 35% of GDP in our public debt. It's very high. But I think as everybody has said, we need to do a lot of things about revenue. But not only about revenue, we also need to do something about efficiency of our spending. Maybe sometimes government spend money on things that private sector can also actually offtake, rather than spending our money on those kind of things. So it's very important for the president to
so that revenue is also what I think the World Bank also talked about. We need to boost our revenue. This has been like conversations for so long. Non-oil exports, we still have the issue of oil theft. We can't even meet up with our quota given by OPEC. So what can President Tinubu do, low-hanging fruit as they call it, to boost our revenue in a short term?
Oil. That's when you say short term means now. If you can produce a lot of oil, you can make more money. Asking people to pay more, especially when you have removed subsidy, where you may do something about exchange rates, can sometimes be counterproductive. How much can you make from oil? It's very important for us to look at that. But another thing is that people can say, but oil cannot be forever. But as long as it lasts, allow or enable or incentivize production, incentivize investment in that sector. But whatever money you make from that, then use the money to provide facilities for people to be able to be more productive. You make money when you produce, you make money when you export. But our manufacturing sector really don't export much. We export very little, unfortunately. Yes. And we need to do something about that. We need to support them. Otherwise, but that is not something you can make now. The same person that has not been able to do very well, you can't go back and say, pay more taxes. Sometimes which is what we have with the 2022 finance bill. Manufacturers and entrepreneurs, SMEs are being asked to pay more. And if you ask them to pay more, some of them also ask for another concession, another place. Give me a grant, support me with exchange rates. At the end of it's going to be +1, -1.
Then the other side of it is dealing with our costs. And a lot of people have started conversation on cost of governance. If we can do a little bit about our revenue and then do a little bit more about the leakages and cost of governance, perhaps there'll be a somewhat balance, that would also help.
Definitely. And if you can do something about that cost, people then have more trust in you. And I think the problem in Nigeria is that...
But if we talk about doing something about cost of governance, what do you envision? How?
I think government has done something. If you look at the TSA, nice policy. I've done a work on TSA before, and we tried to write on why government should do it when they were trying to do it. It was tried under Obasanjo, Jonathan, and later Buhari was able to have the guts to do it. That's a very nice one. The way you pay salaries, trying to remove ghost workers, those are very useful things that the government has done. But you also have to say, what benefit goes to public office holders? When people hear millions of naira, billions of dollars, if you're on the news and you hear that somebody is paid 100 million and they ask you to come and pay more taxes, you probably will try to evade and avoid such taxes. So government should do something about those kind of things. Manage those information very well. When they are right, they do them. But when they are just too much, they can find a way of reducing them. Because when people hear them, they kind of say, why must we pay? They are using this money to enjoy. I mean, something like that. And, you know, the rich sometimes can live a delicious life and then make people think, don't pay taxes, you know.
All right,
we must pay taxes.
All right, yeah, of course we have to pay taxes. Thank you so much, Dr. Afolabi Oluwokere, Managing Director and Chief Economist of Analyst Data Services and Resources, taking us back and lessons that we could learn from some of those past administrations. Thank you for your time and sharing your research with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, now let's take a break and then also look at the Institute of Human Virology that has launched its campus in Abuja as it aims to continue its towering commitment to healthcare in Nigeria. The Chief Executive Officer of the Institute, Dr. Patrick Dakum, says that the institution, since establishment in 2004, has grown to become a leader in providing quality health services, capacity building, and research in the country, and will now look forward to being a center of excellence in providing health service implementation, capacity building, and research.
Seated in this hall are medical practitioners drawn from far and wide to mark a milestone in the 19-year history of the Institute of Human Virology in Nigeria. The Chief Executive Officer of the Institute, Dr. Patrick Dakum, with a theatre room laser precision, minces no words in stating the need for partnerships if Nigeria is to meet its health needs soon.
For us, the Institute of Human Virology brings an addition in the healthcare delivery system in Nigeria that will play complementary roles to what the institutions that provide the policies and framework are doing. Our goal is not to compete. Our goal is to complement and enable a synergy that will enable Nigeria move forward in its healthcare delivery program.
What we are doing, which is very different from a number of institutions, is we are saying that we want this to be a collaboration. So let's have one top-of-the-notch infrastructure that allows research to be done in a collaborative manner.
Day 2 begins with a captivating and scintillating cultural display for the gaily dressed guests, after which the moment all are gathered for.
We are now in the name of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. I think it's something that has come at the right time to deliver the kind of assistance that Nigeria will continue to require.
We had a vision for an institute that would be a Nigerian institute center of excellence that would be focused on contributing to the solution of the major health problems of Nigeria.
The managing director of the institute, Dr. Charles Mensah, further highlights the importance of collaboration.
The major focus of the science building is to foster collaboration between Nigerian scientists and international scientists to be able to start looking at how diseases are managed, what causes those diseases, and how we can bring resources to bear on the mitigation of these diseases on our general population.
The institute says it has since inception provided HIV prevention and treatment services to more than 17 million individuals, as well as tuberculosis treatment and care to more than 235,000 individuals in the country.
And you're welcome back. It's AFEX time now, and we'll give you a summary of trading, how it closed on June the 5th. We can say that in the last trading week, there was mixed performance across key indicators. Turnover was down 84.64% from 3.58 billion to just about 550 million. Volume of contracts traded also went down 84.45%. There was a decline in the number of deals traded by 20.67%, closing at 119. The AFEX Commodity Index was up, however, 0.10%, closing the week at 480.98 index point, while the AFEX Export Index performed negatively, falling to 229.60 from 229.85. 5 points. Now, for the volume of contracts traded, there was reduced volume across all commodities, looking at it there. Now, let's go over to the price and see that across export commodities, sesame, ginger, and wheat maintained at 1,247 naira 57 kobo, 923 naira 82 kobo, that's for ginger, and 318 naira for sesame, and that's for each kilogram. They maintained that there was no movement in those three crops. Other commodities, however, witnessed mixed performances, with sorghum up 4.50% for sorghum, and there you have it. And then you also have to close at 274 naira. Soybeans up as well, 0.96%, almost 1% up. Soybeans is that's what's up there, the 322 naira 91 kobo. And then for paddy rice also, can we see paddy rice and see what happened there? It was up 0.16% at 339 naira 50 kobo. Let's look at other commodities there and see. There you have wheat unchanged at 318 naira for a kilogram. Cocoa is in the red. It dropped by 0.32% to close at 2,041 naira 25 kobo. And then there we have cashew also in the red, down marginally 0.04% to close at 611 naira 12 kobo at the close of trade on June the 5th. And I guess that's all we can accommodate, giving you updates there. But the conversation on AFEX continues now as we look around the issue of the code cash. We know that AFEX has been on this. I think this is the 4th edition. And also that hackathon which they've been talking about. So through its annual Code Cash Crop and AG hackathon, AFEX is facilitating the much-needed interaction between technology, finance, and agriculture tripartite, as this relationship offers prospects for growth within the agriculture sector. The AG Hackathon is an opportunity for talent to contribute to the creation and adoption of solutions that scale food system efficiency. This year, that hackathon is prioritizing innovations that address market needs across data, logistics, and extension services. Well, let's delve into this with Esther Miller, brand associate with AFEX, joining us from our Abuja studio. Hi, Esther. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
So we know you've been talking about this hackathon for a while, but tell us a bit more and its connection to the theme of this year's event.
Okay, thank you so much for the introduction, and I must say you look lovely this morning.
Thank you. You too, Esther.
Like you have rightly mentioned, Code Cash Crop is a platform that AFEX has created to facilitate conversations between key stakeholders in the agriculture, finance, and technology industries to create or solve for challenges that are currently faced within Africa's trade or food systems. So this year's theme being scaling market-led solutions, we are looking forward to seeing submissions and, of course, creating solutions that will solve problems specifically targeted at data, logistics, and, of course, extension-based services. We believe that with collaboration and technology, we can create solutions that will solve these problems, improve our productivity, efficiency within the agricultural value chain.
All right, so talking about those challenges that you implied there, how do they fit into the needs, of the agricultural market today?
Okay, great question. So data, logistics, extension based. Let's start with data. It's common knowledge that data is very necessary for improved and informed decision making, but our farmers do not have access to these. So we're looking forward to solutions that will facilitate better decision making, which will allow for precision agriculture and, of course, providing live monitoring of market trends and prices, farmers will be able to make more informed decisions regarding their productivity, right? So with logistics, the inefficiency in logistics does not allow for key players within the agricultural value chain to send products or coordinate the management of the movement of products from one end to the other. So we need to solve for this to, first of all, reduce waste, that's pre and post-harvest waste, right? And of course, considering the fact that the best of our, or the most of our producer class do not exactly have access to the best internet services, providing them with an extension-based solution would allow them to have access to information, knowledge, and of course the support that they need to scale their production abilities. So all in all, and all that being said, it is very necessary for us to ideate for these problems, especially to maintain and make sure that our productivity is top-notch and is adapted to the international market.
I hear you there, Esther, about some of those challenges about availability of data and even internet to those who really need it. Yes. But I mean, as a form of solution, that's why you have this hackathon. Tell us the process of it. Perhaps out of this process, some of these challenges should be captured and solved.
I didn't get your question.
The process for the hackathon, the process, how it works.
Oh, okay. So, yes, so the process for the Ag Hackathon, it of course starts with us announcing the theme for the year and the challenges, which we have done already. We have opened up the portal for submissions, and the portal will be closing on the 14th of June. I should just throw that out there. So it starts with us receiving submissions from the general public, from talented individuals who have innovative ideas that they believe would be able to solve for these problems, and they send this to us. We have our experts, we have industry leaders and professionals who are part of our judging, how do I describe? Who are part of our judges? Let me just use judges, right? And they are checking these solutions for different things like feasibility, if it's actually scalable, or if these solutions are actually scalable, and everything in between, including the efficiency of these solutions, right? So the solutions are then broken down to at a semi-final level to 10 submissions per region, and then those 10 submissions or those 10 individuals or teams will then be moved forward to our boot camps, right? So we have a 2-day boot camp that will be holding in different regions in Nigeria and Kenya, and these are Kaduna, Ibadan, and Nairobi, Kenya. So at the boot camps, they will be having or undergoing or be part of workshops on design thinking and, of course, presentation to best fine-tune their ideas and the way they present them. At the boot camp, so after the boot camp, we would have 2 submissions from each region, and then they will proceed to the grand finale. At the grand finale, they would then, but let me just add this, that before the grand finale, between the boot camps and the grand finale, there will be a workshop or like a mentorship program for our finalists, right? And this mentorship would have them speaking to the likes of professional venture capitalists and everyone who has a lot of input or impact or has done impact in the agricultural value chain or agricultural industries. So yes, they will help to fine-tune their ideas and their solutions ahead of the grand finale. At the grand finale, they will present their solutions and their ideas, and then we pick our winner based on the initial parameters for picking the winning solutions. Aside from the grand prize that they will be winning, they would also be onboarded onto an AFEX defined program that would help to take their solution or their product to market.
Well, sounds very interesting, but do people go to your website? Do you send out a message? How do people get started?
Okay, so for everyone who is involved, and in fact for the general public, I would advise that they join our Code Cash Crop 4.0 community. You can visit our website at www.africaexchange.com/ccc4, and on the website they can see information on how to be a part of the Ag Hackathon. And if they join our communities, they will get newsletters with updates on the progress of the event.
All right, Esther, thank you so much for that. And we do wish, but your potentials who are able to benefit from this, we wish them the best. And promise that anybody who watches this program, you will admit them into that hackathon.
Thank you.
All right, Esther Miller, thank you so much for giving us that information from AFEX. Esther Miller is the brand associate of AFEX. More markets now with Will Ebong, and I think yesterday the most capitalized stock on the NGX did its thing again.
Yes.
And we see the markets we hit a new high. I think Will has very exciting news this morning.
Yes, it is really exciting to tell you the market dynamics is really very, very unpredictable. You know, the market looked like it was going to go head for a red yesterday, but we ended up having a green because,
then somebody thought Airtel is interesting.
You know, let me get into Airtel. Airtel has a way of just surprising the market when you least expect it. So we saw the market yesterday, sentiments turned positive thanks to Airtel Africa, as in his earlier mentioned. The big guy, you know, drove the all-share index, increasing it by 0.42%, and the market cap, you know, crossing to the 56,000 level, a new high for the year, and breaking the 55,985 resistance level that settled out before. Now, however, investors and traders will be waiting to see if this will be supported by volume in the market. Now, as a result, month-to-date and year-to-date returns have also moderated. We see month-to-date now at 0.5%, and the year-to-date has climbed to 9.3%. Now, total volume traded, however, declined by about 12.8% to 322.49 million units yesterday, were valued at 5.82 billion naira. That doesn't mean the market wasn't in a positive. It just meant lower number of turnover when compared to what we had on Tuesday. Also saw deals, 6,166 deals in the market yesterday. Now, analyzing it by sectors, so slightly mixed across the sectors there. We saw oil and gas, insurance, consumer goods posting gains yesterday, while industrial and the banking indexes were in the red. And we know banking index, we saw UBA and other sectors, the tier one banks pulling down that counter. It was not a great one. UBA, if we look at top trades, you know, there were a lot of sell-offs in UBA. Let's look at the top trades. You see UBA selling off, having about 47.13 million units of its shares traded in yesterday's trading session. If you look at the top trades counter there, we'll see UBA on the top trades for yesterday's trade, and we'll also see Airtel pulling the most value yesterday at 1.76 billion naira. Now, market breadth, you know, is positive now. It's seeing slight, not so far ahead. We also 28 gainers, 24 losers in the market. But looking at the fixed income space, we'll just quickly look at that. It was a bit quiet, minimal activity seen yesterday. And if you look at also in the treasury bills market, not a lot. You know, turned a bit bearish, yields trending up a little bit, you know, but we're just going to be talking to Caleb Alimi. He's going to give us, you know, background insights as to what's happening in that space. Good morning, Caleb. He's a fixed income dealer. He's the chief dealer fixed income at Providence Bank. Good morning, Caleb. It's good to have you on the program. Caleb, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Caleb. Caleb, just give us, as in we saw a bit of like quiet trading in the fixed income market yesterday. What was happening yesterday? Can you tell us?
Well, the market has been relatively quiet. I think there's been just a bit of cherry picking of deals at different spectrums of the market. We've seen more interest in short-dated papers, and that's largely because market participants expect that there will be increase in yields much later in the future. And because of that, we're seeing more cautious play in that space. On the bonds market as well, we're seeing, you know, more interest at the short-dated papers, given that, like I said, we still expect rates to sort of trend up, given the impact of inflation that we'll begin to feel much later in the year, say from July or August. You know, so that's what investors are thinking about, and that's how we're viewing the market currently. That's why we're seeing, you know, those reduced activities in the fixed income space. However, there is treasury bill auction today. The DM will be offering about 182 billion. We expect that would, spur a bit of activity. We expect to see a lot of activity there, given that market liquidity is slightly up, is around 390 billion or thereabouts. So So that would also go chase those investments along with the maturities for today. So we should see a bit of activity in that treasury bill space from today's primary auction, and then from the secondary market will take off from there to tomorrow.
Talking about raising more money and debt from the market, from the federal government, we've seen so far the federal government has been able to raise about 2.7 trillion naira from the debt market. We know that we have a budget deficit of over 11 trillion naira. How far along is the government to closing this gap, and do you think we can get everything from the domestic bond debt market?
Well, interestingly, the outlook to borrow from the domestic market was about 7 trillion, with the balance to be raised from multilateral, bilateral arrangements with other creditors offshore. We think there may not be a Eurobond appearance this year, given the fact that Eurobond yields are currently elevated. So that will be very expensive. It's safe to say that the DMO is slightly behind schedule, given the deficit they intended to cover from the local market. Will they be able to raise everything from the local market? Time will tell. They may need to be a bit more aggressive in what they've been offering. So far, if you include the oversold treasury bills position as well, they've raised about 3 trillion, and they still have about 7 trillion to go, according to the local borrowing program. There's an auction later next week for bonds, that where they could raise possibly another 3 to 500 billion, which will also take them further down. And at that point, they'll be at halfway through to the local borrowing program. But hey, it could be worse before then, depending on market liquidity.
So what do you expect? What do you think marketers, just circling back to the NTB auction, how do you think investors are going to play on the spectrum, in the long, short end, the mid end of the curve? Where do you think they're going to play the most?
So if we go strictly by market numbers, which is market liquidity as of yesterday, market is buoyant, is up almost 400 billion. And then the DMO is offering just about 182 billion across 3 tenors. So on the short dated ones, the 91 days, just over a billion there, on the 182 days, about a billion, 1.9 billion. And on the 365 days, which is the 1 year paper, about 179 billion. Now, if you add that to the 400, circa 400 billion in the market, we could have, yields slightly depressed. The last 1 year stock rate closed at 7.99%. We could see that come down to the 7.5% handle. If we go strictly by market liquidity numbers. But in economics, we say ceteris paribus. Ceteris is not always paribus, so we'll wait to see how it goes.
We'll definitely see how that goes, Caleb Alimi. Thank you so much for joining us. Caleb Alimi is the Chief Dealer, Fixed Income, Providence Bank. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So anyway, we also...
This is not always parable.
It's not always parable.
It's not like they said all other things being equal.
So
other things are not always equal.
That got to me,
Yes,
that got me.
exactly.
So I was just saying that the NESD market, if you look at that market, it's also like trending downwards. Again, it told the equities line last week when it rallied. We saw it rally in the NESD market, but as soon as the market went down, it also went down.
It's connected.
It's connected somehow.
Yeah, but I think one interesting thing that Caleb talked about, the raising of the deficit of the budget from there. I think a lot of Nigerians are like, they said they're going to raise a lot of money from, local domestic market. So, I mean, it's a good way to invest, and because it's the federal government is kind of safe, so perhaps...
Safe, but it's a good way to invest, but that's more burden on the government. We need to look at other means to raise money.
Other means are more expensive. Anyway, I think Lati is standing somewhere there to tell us if the crypto can give us the deficit we need
Funding from crypto?
Yes,
maybe.
for our budget.
Taxing crypto traders,
it's part of the 2022 finance bill, taxing the cryptocurrency transactions to fund our budget.
Exactly, and definitely it's not an easy task, but
because you guys are so
decentralized, so you can hardly pinpoint where all these things happen, but the exchanges play a big role in that. But let's look at the market. 54 back to neutral after sipping into fear yesterday. We're back in neutral again, 54 points. Top cryptocurrencies we track. We see Bitcoin after that dramatic drop yesterday, back again above 4.56%, 26,000. Did touch that 27,000 level. Everyone thought it was going lower than 25,000 support, but I guess investors had other plans at this time. Ethereum, 3.68% jump also, but we see BNB still quite of a laggard, with the jump we're seeing in the market now. Did claim back that $300 level. The other ones in between the SEC and the issue we're seeing in the U.S. there with SEC trying to sue Binance exchange there, Binance U.S. platform. And we see the token there for the native token for the exchange, $278. Big drop we saw yesterday, so it's not recovering with the rest of the market. XRP also recovering big there, 4.73%. Let's bring in Michael Inaji now, financial market analyst. Hello, Michael. Good morning.
Good morning, Gladys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so it looks like the market has shrugged off the whole drama from yesterday. The SEC did sue Binance and did declare a couple of cryptocurrencies as securities, and we saw the market plummet on that news. But now the market is magically back up. What's going on?
Crypto is resilient in terms of regulation coming in and us fighting cases. In 2020, right before the bull market started, the SEC, DOJ laid charges against Arthur Hayes of BitMEX, and that was right when the bull market started. The thing about these court cases is they tend to take 1 to 2 years, so it doesn't get resolved immediately. So you're not going to have any kind of resolution immediately. But the thing that is worrying is Binance was charged with 13 charges. Some of them included commingling of customer funds, lack of appropriate controls. There's just so many, false representation of location, trying to cater to U.S. customers without the proper regulations. In all, they were mostly it was all criminal charges that they were filing against Binance, to the point that a court gave an injunction saying that they wanted to seize Binance US's assets in order to prevent harm coming to investors, but it's not been approved yet. It's just been going through the motions in the courts. And just yesterday, we had Coinbase come out and have a suit by the SEC as well, but this was a civil suit claiming that they had securities violations. Just basically what we've always known, their staking product and other. They named about 8 or 9 securities on there that they claim are not registered correctly. From Filecoin, Solana was a big one, to Cardano. The list had a lot of similarities with the assets that were listed as securities.
So Michael, so if a cryptocurrency is declared a security, is it bad for that cryptocurrency really?
It's not bad, but it does have a heavy cloud over it that it has to basically pass, and it's going to have its day in court. The only problem is if it does get found to be a security by both the SEC and courts, these exchanges now have to have proper disclosure. They legally can't list them. And so that creates some headwinds for a lot of these projects if they were to come out as securities. So that's the big headwind, is basically if ever it was legally, touted as a security, if ever that's what the courts decide, these exchanges can no longer trade them.
Right. So if the cryptocurrency is fully decentralized, can it be pegged as a security? Is it possible?
No, it cannot be pegged as a security. This is why the SEC has never mentioned Bitcoin as a security. And this is why the CFTC thinks Litecoin and Ethereum and Bitcoin are commodities, and that's why they have that opinion. Yeah, so you're 100% correct. If a cryptocurrency is sufficiently decentralized in its origination and its control mechanisms, usually it will not get deemed a security. But a lot of these coins get deemed a security because it just looks and smells like a securities offering.
Right.
Touted as.
So do you think at some point we'll have a decentralized narrative in the crypto space? Maybe we'll see all those decentralized platforms actually doing better than the centralized ones?
Eventually, but not now. Right now, the UI, unfortunately, is clunky. We're not quite there in the execution. There's a reason why Binance has billions of dollars in volume, and these DEX products, struggle to get 10-20% of that flow. But eventually it will come to pass where, hopefully these decentralized products, have some kind of relevance to them. But for right now, it's mostly vaporware, some people would like to say, or it's just development in the works.
Okay.
And we're yet to roots of it.
All right. Well, so much to unpack there. Thank you so much, Michael and Nadia. Still a developing story. Still keep tracking what the SEC does now with Binance. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lenny.
All right, see, the top gain is there. We see the meme coin back in the top gain is counter 15.84% up. That's for Pepe. And we see STX stacks. That's up 14.95%. So we're seeing double digits bounces this morning because the market is looking less fearful than yesterday.
Yeah, less fearful. I know I was laughing at you yesterday, but I can't do that today. So congratulations to you.
Exactly.
All right, ladies, see you at 1:30 for Business Incorporated. And that's where we draw the curtains on the program today. Thank you so much for being a part of Business Morning. We know it was worth your time. Current, relevant business conversation that affects you and affects your money. We'll do it again tomorrow. I'm in John McCoy, please join Laddie Williams 1:30 for Business Incorporated. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.